Good evening. Welcome to our show, Ghosts Are Near, where we discuss and actively explore paranormal phenomena. I am your host, Keith Johnson, the co-founder of New England Anomalies Research. My co-founder is again in the control booth. So hello, Sandra. And happy birthday to you in a couple of days. Birthday coming up, Sandra's birthday. And I always like to announce that. Well, let's get right into our show. We have an extremely interesting guest this evening, and he is a clinical hypnotherapist, but also much more. There is much, much more to his story, and we're going to be discussing some of that history on this episode. And Mr. Alan Alves is rather an unsung hero in my eyes. So please, let's give a round of applause. Welcome, Mr. Alan Alves.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you for inviting me.
I've wanted you on for some time, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, to get into it, how did you become a clinical hypnotherapist?
Well,
I know it's a long story.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. In my other life, prior to being a hypnotist, I was a police officer. I was an investigator and detective and so forth. And one of my first major cases that I was involved in was a homicide. I was only 5 years on the job, and then all of a sudden there was a homicide of a young 15-year-old girl that was kidnapped and left to die in the state forest tied to a tree. So two bikers had found the body, brought me up there, and we discovered the body and so forth. And while investigating that, there was a woman who said she saw a strange car matching the description of a car that we were looking for, a small green car. And she wrote down the plate number. And I says, great. She said, but I can't find it. Wrote it on a matchbook. Once she was kidnapped, we didn't find the body for 2 months. So she lost the matchbook that she wrote the plate number because it thought it was suspicious. A guy and a girl fighting. So someone told me, bring it to a hypnotist. And I said, I'm a cop, I deal in facts,
right.
Not the hocus pocus stuff. And then I found a hypnotist in Bridgewater who was a police officer. He was a police officer who was a hypnotist. I brought that witness to her. He did what's called regression hypnosis on her. Regression, she remembered most of the plate number, which eventually matched up with the suspect vehicle. And I said, gee, when I grow up, that's what I want to do. And at first, I wanted to do the comedy stage hypnosis, but the more I learn how much you can help people with it, I decided to get into the clinical aspect of it, and been doing it for 20 years.
20 years, quite some time.
Yeah.
What kind of preparation training goes into that?
As far as a hypnotist?
Yes.
Well, it's not really that much training. Everybody thinks that you have to have some kind of powers or anything, but it really isn't. Matter of fact, I'm a certified instructor now. I teach and train people to be certified hypnotists. And it's basically 100 hours, probably 2 college semesters. And with all the books and stuff, and you get certified by the National Guild of Hypnotists, which I'm also a member of.
Right.
And you get certified, start working right away.
Now, there's certain misnomers about that, which you see mostly portrayed in the media, where you can be hypnotized against your will. Somebody's just going to dangle something, and all of a sudden you're mesmerized, and you have no willpower at all, and suddenly they're going to be doing all these subconscious things and everything. You want to clear that up for us, please?
Sure. Actually, you cannot be made to do anything against your will. It's impossible. If I could make people do things against their will, I wouldn't be here. I'd hypnotize the bank president in Holly Berry. So you can't make anybody do anything against their will. However, as far as clinical hypnosis, now there's a difference between stage hypnosis and clinical hypnosis.
Right.
I don't want to give away the secrets of stage hypnosis. What you see is real in stage hypnosis. But in clinical hypnosis, if you want the change, you want the change in your life, you want this You explain how hypnosis works, because I don't hypnotize you. You hypnotize yourself. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I merely guide you into hypnosis and give you the information you need to make the change in your life.
Clarification that you're actually hypnotizing yourself.
So, because, Mayo claimed 80% of all illnesses are created by the mind. And where it comes from is your thoughts. Your thoughts create feelings, feelings create actions, actions create results. So if you think positive, you're going to have positive results. You think negative, you're going to have negative results. So, and when your thoughts, and the most important thing I have with people, some of my clients, they come in with depression. Now, if you're depressed, it's because you're living in the past. Anxiety, you're living in the future. You got to live in the here and now, and with hypnosis, you can do that.
I see.
So,
wow, that's very interesting. Now, I assume with, say, cessation of smoking, you have to want to quit. I mean,
yep,
you're not going to say you're going to quit. You
got to want to quit smoking. But if you want to quit, you'll quit. We've been, the only stats I keep are on cigarette smokers in my office, and we have a 92.6% success rate with smokers.
Wow.
Because I only deal with people who want to quit. Because you got to want to quit. Oh, my wife wants me to quit, or my kids want me to quit. Well, it's not going to work. Save your money.
Right.
You got to want to quit.
Exactly.
Because you were programmed to smoke. And that's why. Our mind, computers are designed after our mind. Okay? So when you buy a computer, you buy it with a simple operating system. You wanted to do certain things, you got to put programs in there to do what you wanted to do. When we're born with a simple operating system. You get programmed by your parents, siblings, where you grew up, friends, relatives, enemies, classmates, teachers, and so on. All become part of your programming. Some of it good, some of it bad. When you get a bad program in a computer, use an antivirus. Think of hypnosis as an antivirus for your mind.
Right. What about like study habits for the students and such? I personally have a math block sometimes. I can do math by myself, but when it's in a classroom, I tend to...
Under pressures and
so
forth?
I tend to have a mental block for it. So.
Yeah, and you create that mental block. Nobody does but you. And so you can unblock that. And what you have to do is you have to learn, like when we work with sports figures or anything else, like anything else, you have to live in the here and the now. Not the past, not the present, not the past even if it was 10 minutes ago. That's the past. You got to live in the moment. And what happens is, whether you're studying for an exam or going to take an exam or you're playing sports, you're up at the bat and you go like, oh, I can't strike out. I struck out the last 4 times, and I got to get a hit this time. So you're living in the past. You're draining the strength from your present.
Yeah.
So what we do with sports figures is, even with people that are going to take an exam, we give them a post-hypnotic suggestion. So, I get you to relax, and in hypnosis, where you're steady, relaxed, and you have a free flow of information coming to your mind, then we anchor it. We anchor it to whatever you want to anchor, whether you want to clap 3 times, or whether you want to snap your fingers, or you want to pull your baseball cap or anything else. That puts you back into the zone. It puts you back into that state of hypnosis where the past is not bothering you, the future is not bothering you, you're in the here and now. You could have a fight with your wife in the morning, but that doesn't even bother you once you get it back. Once you do that thing, you go into that state of concentration, playing in the zone. That's because you're playing with your subconscious mind. You're playing in hypnosis when you're in the zone. Because everything you learn is in your subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind controls us. Unfortunately, we let our conscious mind do things to the fact, like, for instance, we've been sitting here for a few minutes here and breathing normally because your subconscious mind was doing the breathing. If you started thinking about your breathing and breathe with your conscious mind, you'd be, am I breathing deep enough? Am I deep fast enough? And so it messes it up. So certain things your conscious mind does, but there's other things the subconscious mind is in control of. And whenever you try the conscious mind to do the subconscious mind business, that's when you run into problems.
Now, one thing that a lot of people I've known have a problem with is public speaking.
Yep.
And I don't really have a problem with public speaking. Not that I don't get nervous ever, but I mean, if I know my material, I don't really have a problem. But I've known people personally that to them it's like trying to get up and walk on a tightrope over a cliff. It's the most terrifying thing to them.
Fear of death is number 4. Fear of public speaking is number 1.
Is that so?
Yeah. And it's so funny, the only country in the world where you have freedom of speech, and it's number 1 fear.
Says something about our culture, doesn't it?
Yeah. But no, it's something we take care of in hypnosis all the time. That's the easiest one in hypnosis, is speech and public speaking and smoking. Those are the 2 easiest ones we deal with.
Okay. Now, how about, speaking of regression, how about people who have had abduction experiences, say a UFO or whatever have you?
I haven't worked with anyone that has been abducted. I know we were supposed to, but we never got around to it with a couple of friends of mine. They had moved away to Maine. We were supposed to do that with their abduction experience, but they never did. But I did have, while we were making the Bridgewater Triangle, one of the paranormal investigators came up to me and said, "I wonder if you could help me." I said, "Sure, what's that?" She said she was having a dream, nightmare, and during this nightmare, she was this little girl that she could see clearly, and I believe she knew her first name, and she would ask for help, and every time she'd go to help her, all of a sudden these black tangling things would close in on the path and attack her, and then she'd wake up. But she'd wake up with bruises all over her back and scratches. And she had gone to doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, because she thought she was crazy. So what I did was I brought her in, I regressed her. And by the way, the funny part was she was an atheist also. And I regressed her back. I had her relive that incident in which she's going through following that girl. And when she saw that those monsters, or whatever you want to call them, closing in, I said, now there's a glass wall. They can't get at you, so you can go straight and find the girl. But rolling back, she did some research on that girl that was bothering her in a dream, and she identified the girl was in down south somewhere. She had died of drowning, but there was suspect that she was killed in a satanic ritual of a sacrifice.
Really?
That's what some of the aunt was telling her. So when I got done with this, and I understand now, I was dealing with facts. My first instinct with them that this is all hocus pocus stuff. And so as she was in her regression state and hypnosis, she said, she's getting by, she's going, she says, "I see Jesus." And she's going to the light.
And she was an atheist.
And she came out of it, she said, "I saw Jesus, I saw Jesus." So she left. And after she left, I had my buddy was in there. And when I was in the room with her, he was watching the video. I have my foyers on video. And he said, there was an orb came out and was flying around in your video. He said, I pressed record. It's on record. I said, come on. He said, yeah. So then I looked on my screen, then we saw the orb going around in my foyer. I opened the door, looked at my foyer, you couldn't see it. So I said, it must be the spider webs on the camera and stuff like that. I went, I cleaned the camera, I come back out, and the orb started there. Then it got elongated, and then it started rolling around. He says, and so my friend says, oh, that's an entity looking for the cemetery to finally get rest. I go, oh, come on. He said, I'm telling you. So I said, okay, you can see me on the video. I opened the door, and I says, go ahead, the cemetery's on South Main Street. And I closed the door, and I come back in, it's still, and he's laughing. No, he says, you got to write it down. Probably can't hear you. So I wrote the address of the cemetery on the south, and I went in there. I said, yeah, there's the address, and I put it there, and I came back in the room, and we saw the orb was elongated, got small, and it went right out the door.
Wow.
Never seen it again.
And that solved it.
Yeah, and I was like amazed.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was like,
That's really cool.
and I have the video. It's not clear. I tried to locate it so I could bring it, but I couldn't find it. I've brought it out and so much stuff moving around and stuff like that. But I know it's somewhere in my pile. But
Now, Sandra and I have a close friend, very dear friend. She suffered from satanic ritual abuse. No fault of her own, a small child.
Yeah.
She had family members that were into it. She was subjected to it as a very, very young child. And she was actually a client of ours. She called us in because she was having activity. And we did find definite evidence of activity in her residence. But psychologically, and she did become a good friend of ours over the years. We're still very, very dear friends. But she has trace memories.
Still has
she
issues, yeah.
She doesn't know if they're real or not sometimes. You know, that it comes out, did this really happen? You know, or are they just threatening me? You know, and you know, do you ever work with something like that?
yeah, we work with a lot, not with the satanic ritual, but abuse.
Yeah, right.
Whether it's physical, mental, or sexual abuse as a child, and so forth. And what happens is that three things goof up human beings, and none of them are real. Okay? One of them is imagined fear. I mean, somebody holds a gun to your head, that's real fear.
Right.
I'm talking about imagined fear. Geez, if I didn't stop to get cigarettes, I wouldn't have gotten that accident. It's all my fault.
Yeah, right.
So you blame yourself. So, or that's imagined guilt, I'm sorry. So the imagined fear is rubber spiders or stuff that really can't hurt you, but it's real to that subconscious mind, so it might as well be real. The second one is anxiety, which is another word for worry. You're trying to live in the future and solve a problem in the future. You don't. It's impossible to do that.
Right.
You solve problems in the present. So, and the third one that goofs us up is, like I said, that imagined guilt. Imagined guilt calls for punishment. You know, I'm guilty, and we're programmed to learn that guilt calls for punishment. So who's going to punish myself when I'm guilty? Either me is the only one that's going to punish me. How do I punish myself? By not reaching goals I seek. By when things start going well for me, I must find a way to sabotage it because I don't deserve it, because I'm guilty, I'm bad, because of all these issues that they're blaming themselves for. So, and that sort of thing, we regression back to regress the cause. We call it regress the cause, and we changed that. We changed that so they're looking at as an adult rather than as a 4-year-old, which is stuck in their mind.
Because the child is still there inside.
That child's there that didn't know it grew up to be a, educator or a wonderful person, everything else. It's stuck in that head running around that 4-year-old.
Right. And, of course, very frequently people sabotage themselves so nobody else can. There, I messed it up for myself. Nobody's going to get me now. I've been guilty of that at times, certainly.
Yeah, you just, it comes right down to your thoughts.
Yeah.
Negative or positive thoughts really have a tremendous amount of control on where you are, who you are, or where you're going.
Now, what about, I've heard the story, of course, somebody will put a dime on somebody's back of the hand. They're in a state of hypnosis, and it's red hot. They'll get a blister.
Yeah.
It's cooled off now, and the blister will heal psychosomatically. How close to reality is that?
Very close. Your mind, like I say, it goes back to your thoughts, okay? If thoughts create physical things, okay? If you got bad news right this moment, all of a sudden your stomach would get upset.
Yes.
You used to have physical stuff.
Yes.
Okay? If you scratched a ticket and won $1 million, you could walk on your broken leg. It wouldn't even bother you because your thoughts are there and it uplifts you and so forth. So your thoughts create physical.
Yeah.
Because thoughts create feelings. And feelings create actions. Actions create results. So if you believe it to be true, it's true. The subconscious mind is a very, very powerful mind. If we had the time, I would explain it all to you, but how the conscious mind, conscious mind's job is, what the subconscious mind's job is. I mean, it'd take about 15 minutes, 10 minutes to do that. So
we'll have to do that when we have you on again. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But how about associative identity disorder, like split personality? Do you ever deal with that?
Yeah, I deal with them more often than I'd like.
Really?
Not from people off the street, but I get referrals from psychiatrists, and there's a hospital in Rhode Island that I get a lot of referrals from. People they can't help, they ship them to me.
All right.
And I had one woman had 5 personalities.
Wow.
Yeah. And
you must deal with people who are dealing with schizophrenia, which is terrifying condition.
It is. I've got some videos of people I've dealt with. I videotape all my.
That's good.
All my.
Do that. You document it all.
So, and if you saw some of them videos, you wouldn't believe the difference that it makes in their lives.
Really?
Yeah. Because it's just that imagination mind, that subconscious mind. Language is imagination. The language of the conscious mind is logic. When logic and imagination conflict, imagination wins every single time. That's,
right.
You know, like, and in hypnosis, there's waking hypnosis. When you're watching a movie, you're going to watch a movie on TV. You decide to start to watch a movie on TV.
Right.
You see a sad part, you tear up. You see a scary part, you might jump.
Right.
You see a gross part, your toes may curl in your shoes. None of it was real. But it was real to that subconscious mind. It controlled all those muscles, all those nerves. It controlled every fiber of your body, and it wasn't even real.
Right.
And so that takes you back to that coin there.
Yes, yeah, like a simulated reality.
Yep,
And you've got
yep.
the goggles on, and you're seeing this, and
Yep.
you're on a roller coaster, and you're holding on, and you're tripping over things.
Yeah,
and
so naturally when a stage hypnotist puts that in their mind, they volunteered to get up there. They didn't drag people up there. Also, they invite anybody who want to volunteer to come up here, come up here on the stage hypnosis. So they're already willing participants. They want to be hypnotized.
Yeah.
And they out to have a good time. They want to have fun. So you have it very easy to have fun with them. And what they do on those stage, from doing crazy stuff, funny stuff, is real. And when they come out of it and you bring it down, they'll only remember what they want to remember. The subconscious mind protects us. If it was too embarrassing or whatever, they'll say, I didn't do that.
Right.
Even when they see the video, they'll say, no, I didn't do that. That's not me. I can't believe that. That's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, just touching upon, of course, we've had some gentlemen on who did a documentary of the Bridgewater Triangle and the different things that have happened. And you, above all, you know what went on there. You had the personal experience. I mean, from day one, unfortunately, the young girl that was killed, and I remember hearing about that, and it just stuck with me. Even before she was found, I couldn't stop thinking about that.
That stayed with me to this day. I remember the dates and times and everything else. I had a daughter about that age at that time, so it really hit me hard. And it was,
really
watching the family go through it so many times, because the defendant ended up getting, I think, 5 trials.
Oh yeah.
Appealing this, appealing that. Once because of hypnosis was used in the investigation.
Oh really?
And then on that client, on that witness, he got a new trial because hypnosis is not accurate testimony.
Right.
It's just what you believe to be true. Doesn't mean it to be true.
Yeah.
So but hypnotic testimony is not
admissible
accurate or admissible in court.
Right.
But evidence that you glean from that is okay.
Right.
If I hypnotize you and say, there's a gun behind the bureau, and I go find the gun behind the bureau, well, then I can use that gun.
Right.
If it's the murder weapon. So, he ended up getting 4 or 5 trials. The family had to go through that so many times. From 1978 all the way to 2000, I think.
Wow.
So they never got a chance to.
And he eventually died in prison.
Yeah, he died in Lompoc, California prison,
Yeah. And speaking of that, do you ever help people? You must deal with grief, prolonged grief.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we do that all the time. Yeah.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I had 2 people who I dealt with severe grief, and after that, they came back to me to be trained as hypnotists, and now they do hypnotherapy themselves.
Right.
They were so moved by it.
Right. And I know my distant cousin, H.P. Lovecraft, he did say that fear is the strongest emotion. But my friend Dave Match has been a frequent guest on our show. He said grief is actually stronger because it's more prolonged and it's more within. I mean, fear can come and go, but grief kind of simulates.
And grief has different levels depending on if you got a chance to say goodbye.
Yeah.
You know, if it was an accident or something sudden or something like that, you never got a chance to goodbye, or I fought with him that day and he passed away, never got a chance, I didn't mean that, and so forth.
Yes, right.
So you end up punishing yourself for that. So in hypnosis, you have them get a chance to have them come down from heaven and say your goodbyes.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah. So you can do it in the subconscious mind. The imagination mind believes it to be true. And if the subconscious mind believes it to be true, it's true. Absolutely true. No matter what your conscious mind.
Wow. That's interesting that there's such a conflict. There's such a conflict between the conscious and the subconscious mind sometimes. And the conscious mind doesn't want to accept it. And
the subconscious mind is the boss, period.
Wow.
Boom. You know, so what you have to do is you have to change that program that's in the subconscious mind to make it agreeable with the conscious mind.
Yeah.
You know, your conscious, I want to quit smoking. I hate cigarettes. It's costing me $75 a week. I hate cigarettes. I want to quit. Subconscious mind says, we're not going to quit. What am I going to do after our meal, after I make love, or when I have a beer or cocktail? It's got all those programs in there, which aren't true. They were programmed to you by TV commercials. Because back in the day, commercials were louder than the programming. And the reason for that was they wanted to put you in waking hypnosis. You know, you could be sitting there watching TV and go, now a word from our sponsor, hello. And then it puts that subconscious mind alert. And they'll show a beach scene with swimming and all this beautiful stuff, and then go smoke cigarettes, smoke cigarettes. So.
Yes. Like they used to do at the drive-in theater, the subliminal messages, you know.
Yeah. So, and they send suggestions to you. You could watch let's say you watch commercials that make no sense whatsoever, while your conscious mind your subconscious mind doesn't miss a trick.
Right.
And they're programming your subconscious mind.
Yeah. Well, you know, I hope you come back as a guest.
Oh, I'd love to.
You know, because next time we have you on, I'd like to go into further detail with some of the
cult stuff, satanic stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And the, you know, it's coined by Lauren Coleman as the Bridgewater Triangle.
Yeah, that it is. That's one of the strangest places on earth, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I'm glad you said that.
I was ridiculed at the beginning. That was called Cult Cop and Ghostbuster.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of the evidence.
And then once the ritualist homicides occurred, all of a sudden, Alan's an expert.
Right.
I felt like I was in an old-time movie, because when all this stuff was happening in this cult, you see all the graffiti and all the trappings and stuff. And I was in the library looking at old library books, you know. Just like in the movies, when those scary movies I see when I was a kid, and they're reading up the runic alphabet and all this stuff like that. You know, it's so funny, but I studied all that, and then everybody said I was an expert. Yeah, I just knew more than anybody else.
You had to become an expert at it.
Yeah, they thought I was an expert. I just had more knowledge than some people, but I don't think anybody's an expert.
Thank you for being our guest.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll have you on again. All right. Thanks very much.